Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be looking at Tofu's Earth Spirit gameplay against Enigma Galaxy. Gaming Gladiators popped off, and it's been a while since I've made a position for roaming guide. So I'm like, why not? Let's do it. It's really been a minute since we've talked about a roaming force. I'm going to talk specifically about a large portion of his early game decisions. I feel like as a Pos 4, this is the most confusing time in the game when, you could literally be anywhere. I mean, you could argue that's the whole game, but in the early laning stages, a hero like Earth Spirit can be difficult to lane, right? The hero's not the best laner, but diving mid is a bit tough in this current meta, right? The towers come out pretty far, right? The aggro range is basically right next to the hill. And so what do you do? How do you play the early game? We're going to watch Tofu execute on that, then a little bit of the mid game, and let's get into it. Also, I want to tell you guys that if you've been struggling with solo queue and you're looking to get to the next rank, I'm going to be able to help you. Like, literally, with the gameleap website, I'm going to give you guys guides that are going to make it unbelievably clear on what you need to do. So if you've been stuck in the solo queue grind, you don't know what to do, and you want to become absolutely broken, but like actually you want to become much better at Dota, and you want to take it more seriously, the gameleap website is going to help you do that. So click the link down below. I'm going to help you get to the next rank, and I'll see you there. Alright, so for the early laning stage, he was against a Pangolier, and this is a solo Pangolier. Enigma was going for an aggro lane, so all he does is basically get his Jakiro off to a good start by securing the range creep and then going from there. Anytime your offlaner doesn't have a range creep secure, as a position 4, you have to make this your priority. And so as you're going to see, he's going to zone the Pango from it and then secure it. And that's why he also takes his Q at level 1. Sometimes you can take roll, but in these situations where you need a range creep secure, you take your Q. On top of that, honestly, roll on Earth Spirit just sucks at level 1. You should basically never take it. The Q is significantly better. Now, this game in particular, Tofu kind of has to make a hard decision. Do I go mid? Do I stay top and just continue to zone the Pango? Or do I go bottom into the tri lane? In this game in particular, he decides to TP mid. Let's talk about this mid TP, because TPing mid can be an extreme grief as a position 4. I highly recommend you guys be extremely careful about making mid TPs as a position 4. Honestly, I'm willing to say that almost like 8 out of 10 TPs to mid from position 4 players are bad TPs because of how the towers are set up, right? It's just too difficult to gank. Most position 4 heroes also don't even have really the best way to get on top of heroes. Like a Hoodwink will TP in, not be able to get the stun distance, and then it's a disaster. Earth Spirit in particular is one of the best mid gankers in the game due to the fact that he can actually get on top of people and even kick them away from the tower. This is obviously an example of a perfect TP, even though it ends up not actually working out. It's a fantastic TP because of how far Miracle was actually up, meaning he's going to be able to stay away from the tower. And on top of that, Miracle is very low on HP. Sure, he's a Huskar, but he is very low on HP. Unfortunately, Miracle did end up avoiding the roll, but at the end of the day, it was the right idea. I like that TP. It even ended up bringing a TP from the Coddle to the mid lane as well. After that, Tofu spends a little bit of time stacking. After every gank, you should look at the clock and see if there's an available stack. The reason why is if you're too quick with your next gank, very often it's going to be predictable. So instead, if you stay off the map for a short period of time and stack, not only is it going to help your team's overall efficiency, but it's also going to make it harder for the enemy team to know where you're coming from. All right, next up, we're going to look at a very important bot engagement. This is an engagement where every single position 4 player basically in the world, besides, the top percentage of players, would mess it up. Now, here's why they would mess it up, okay? They would be bottom, and their anxiety would kick in. You might think I'm crazy when I say their anxiety would kick in, but what I mean by that is they're gonna be like, oh my god, they know I'm here and I didn't get a kill. You know what they would do? They'd roll onto this Chaos Knight, tank a stun, get blasted by GH, and die. You cannot overforce things, okay? One of the main goals of the Initiator is allowing his team to jump a target that doesn't put them out of position. So, for instance, GH here is a decent target. I honestly think he probably should have rolled onto GH. He actually ended up missing the kick, so bit of a misplay from Tofu. I think he was panicking a little bit here, probably a little bit nervous to hop into, a Weaver Bugs, hop into a CK. It's a very deadly tri lane from Enigma Galaxy, but he does panic a little bit. So I will say that this roll would have been good. The reason why this roll in particular would have been good is it was easily followed up by the Ursa, and that's what you're looking for. Don't go on people that your teammates can't follow up on. I know it sounds simple, but you cannot mess this up. Most players, if you actually pay attention to your initiations, go on people that take 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds to get onto, and then it's just a bad fight. But either way, they end up reinitiating here, hitting a beautiful roll on the GH, which I can't believe killed him. I didn't think it was going to do enough damage, but it did, and they killed ILTW as well. So a good decision to go to the Ursa lane. All right, so the next movement of the game is my favorite movement of the early game, and the reason why is because I have this thing in pubs where basically I'll tell my position for it to come help me out, or they just never do, right? So basically what ends up happening is I always have to tell my position for when I'm strong. Now that might have been the case for Ace here. Ace might have said, you know, hey Tofu, I want to pressure this tower, can you come back me up? Because the thing about this game is, let's look at the heroes, right? Ursa doesn't really need backup, he's safe with the IO. Yes, they can get kills there, so, you know, realistically, they could play the Earth Spirit bottom. That is an option. The Ember Spirit is, you know, he's chilling. He doesn't need backup. However, at this current point in time, Ace wants to put pressure onto this top tower. Jakiro is a very, very gankable hero. Jakiro has very low movement speed and no real good way of getting on top of people. Earth Spirit obviously is very good at that. He's good at counter ganking and saving teammates due to the kick and roll. And on top of that, he's the setup that you need. So as we'll see here, Ace is pressuring the tower. Kuro ends up TPing in, trying to kill off the Jakiro, but because Io and the Earth Spirit are here, they're able to easily save him and turn it around. They're even able to eventually kill off this Pango and get the tower. And so basically what I'm saying here is I love this play from Tofu. Even though he's literally not doing anything, it's a correct idea conceptually, which is enable the heroes that want to play up the furthest. That's in general what you should be doing. Don't force something like your safe lane Terror Blade to have to consistently fight. It might seem obvious when I say it, but the amount of games you'll actually watch a position 4 player force their safe laner or force a defensive farming mid to fight is horrible. For instance, you might be like, why not play with the Ember Spirit? He's pretty aggressive. Yeah, he is, but he's also against a Huskar, a hero that naturally is very good against, you know, Ember at this point in the game. And so I really just love what he did top there. I know that's a big macro idea, but hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you guys and you can try to implement it into your games. The next thing is that he buys the tome instantly at minute 10. Guys, you know how passionately I feel about this. Please, I beg you, buy the tome at minute 10. It's so important, right? He even uses it to kill the Huskar here. Probably didn't need it, but the main point is buy it instantly. He ends up getting his level 7 at minute 10 here, and this is the hardest spike. I'm not going to say in the game for Earth Spirit, but it's one of the hardest spikes because when your roll gets dropped to a 4-second cooldown, that's when it becomes a pretty nutty ability, as we see him use it twice on the mind control here and pick up the kill. So please, insta buy the tome. You might be like, Spee, what if my position 5 needs it? What if my Wyvern is level 4? Dude, I do not care, bro. Odds are he's going to buy it at minute 12, and it's not even going to be useful at that point. Just buy it. All right, so another thing that's really cool that Tofu does this game is he's a barrier to smoke ganks. So as we'll see in this clip here, his team is going to go for Roshan. He ends up bumping into GH, so he drops some wards down on the hill, and basically he's just enabling them to Rosh. He's going to break the smoke, just kind of give his team the information they need to complete this Roshan. That's exactly what happens. They're able to get the Roshan as well. He snipes a courier, and now after this is what I really want to talk about. So in a lot of games, you're going to find yourself as a position 4 unable to make plays, or you're unsure of what play to make. Sometimes it's because your team just doesn't have good heroes to make plays with, or you don't know where to go. In this game in particular, as we'll see here, the Ember Spirit is currently pushing in bottom, which I like because I think that's their best dead lane shove hero. And so Ember's pushing in bottom, Jakira's pushing in mid, which I love because that's like the second safest lane, or most dangerous lane, I mean. And then Ursa's top with the IO. And so what is he doing? He's actually zoning for potential ganks. Now, they have actually a lot of information on where Enigma Galaxy is, but he's not overplaying his hand. And I just want to make this an important note because essentially, like, a lot of the time position 4 players will assume they're playing poorly if they're not getting kills. Guys, if the game is like pre-minute 15, a lot of the time, especially if you're not like some Skywrath mage, you're like an Earth Spirit who can't really just like insta-kill people. Yeah, your ulti is pretty nasty and you should learn to solo kill people if you're gonna play a hero like Earth Spirit. But even then, he's just not over-forcing his hand. He waits for his Ursa to connect. They're gonna now surround this mid tower. The Ursa wanted to play off the Aegis here, and that's exactly what they're gonna do. He's gonna roll onto the Huskar here. Unfortunately, Miracle is quite the beast and actually times his Q to cancel the roll. but they're going to eventually commit on him, right? I don't really like this ulti, I will be honest. I feel like committing the ulti onto the Huskar, a hero that can dispel it, is a bit of a risk. It's I would even argue, a bit of a mistake, and he ends up going down. The next thing I want to note is a clip here at minute 20. Basically, the main thing I want to cover here is you, as the position 4, often have to be the guy who sees the gaps. You're going to be the initiator in a lot of games, and as a result, you have to be the one leading the charge, and you have to give your team confidence. For instance, here, he's actually going to roll ahead, and the reason why he sees this as a gap is he sees the Coddle mid, the Huskar is TPing in very deep, and his team is able to connect here, right? They have the heroes around. On top of that, the Pangolier is dead. And so, yeah, he's going to go in, he kicks the Huskar towards his team, is able to roll, disengage, pop his stick, and then go back in onto Miracle. Doesn't actually connect on the roll there due to GH's Force Staff, but this is such a fantastic go. Even though he didn't connect on every single spell, that's not really the main thing to note here. A lot of people will be like, oh my god, Tofu sucks. He misses every roll. I can't believe this guy's a pro. Like, blah, 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 blah. But really, the bigger thing here is his ability to identify what is a good engagement, right? When is someone separated? And that's what he does here, finding Kuroki as well and securing another kill for his team. All right, the upcoming play here from Tofu ends up being his best play of the game. Funny enough, I don't even think it was fully intentional, which is kind of hilarious, but this is why you got to be able to play on your toes, you know, stay on your feet and just be able to make the quick decisions regardless of what happens. So Gaming Gladiators are going up the high ground here. They scan. Now, what he's going to look to do is be the vision guy, right? So he understands that at this point of the game, number one, it's actually relatively difficult for them to kill him. He has 2.2k HP and a Ghost Scepter. This Ghost Scepter addresses the main 2 damage heroes from Nigma Galaxy, and that is the CK and the Huskar. And if he gets chain stunned by Pango, it's kind of whatever, right? Because if that happens, it's going to enable the Ursa and the Ember. So he needs to make sure that his teammates don't get chain stunned. How do you do that? You go onto a high ground. So what he does here is he has the wards, right? And when you're playing a hero like Earth Spirit, you can be the guy who places the wards, even be the ward if you want to roll onto the hill. So what he's going to do here is look to roll up. He was obviously trying to maybe even get on top of the hill and be the ward, but he bumps into Miracle here. Miracle was popping the smokes and being the guy who would tank the fight and tank the initiation for Enigma Galaxy. But because he's on his feet, he puts down the ward. This is the number one thing he's going to do because look, now they get to see where everyone is. This is a key thing as a position 4 player. The amount of position 4 players that do not buy wards and initiate fights with wards is disturbing. In fact, I don't think almost any of you guys actually do this. If you're a position 4 player, do you actually lead fights, especially nighttime fights or high ground fights, with wards? Another big thing as well is smoke gangs should be led in general, especially if they're going up a hill, with a ward. That's exactly what he does here, and now they're going to be able to see the initiation coming. Dyrachyo can do everything in his power to take someone out, and it's easy for him because he sees everyone, so he can react generally easily. He can Q if the Pango is coming in, he can ulti, even though, funny enough, he actually almost ends up getting chain stun there. Thankfully, Mind Control doesn't really want to target him in that case because of the Aegis, but let's continue on. So he ends up kiting out. He kind of understands that the BKBs are a bit of a problem. It's just not really his game to just own the cores. So he ends up trying to roll onto the high ground. Bit of a miss on the GH, but goes for the silence, into the kick, and is going to go for the solo kill onto the Coddle. Beautiful ulti on the roll through, even though it didn't connect. The ulti ended up connecting, and he gets a solo kill, practically a solo kill, until Boom steals it on the GH. So a beautiful, beautiful fight from Tofu, even though once again, you might be like, oh my god, he's doing nothing. He's not even stunning. He's being the vision. He was the initiation. He got the key ward down, and then he took out GH from the team fight. That's plenty of impact at this point of the game when everyone seemingly is either rolling or has a BKB. All right, next up, let's take a look at a high ground fight. I'm going to keep it really simple here. Basically, the main thing you have to do is just, once again, not force your team too deep. So he goes for the silence onto the Weaver, right? Kind of just messing with Kuro here. I honestly think he probably should have held his silence just for some sort of bigger initiation. But the next thing that he does is probably the main thing that I like, which is he rolls onto the back line. So the IO ends up getting bursted. It was a really clean jump from ILTW, so well done from ILTW. But now he's going to roll onto the back line, kind of kites up ILTW here and allows the Ursa to get on top of him and force a mediocre BKB usage, at least a defensive BKB usage from ILTW. Then he gets the attempted silence onto the Pango, somehow missed. I don't know, but follows up the Yule's attempt from the Pango onto him with a stun and takes him out. And the biggest thing, once again, is when your team is ahead, the worst thing you can do is just bait them to fight into the enemy. You want the enemy to have to dive into you. When they have to dive into you, they're going to have to commit their BKBs very early onto the fight, and it's going to be very hard for the enemy team to essentially back each other up, right? ILTW, once he goes in like that, it's not like anyone else can really help him because they have to run through an Ursa and run through an Ember, and as a result, he gets rolled on by Tofu and then has to pop the defensive BKB, as we kind of already talked about. And as the fight continued, he finds another person on the backline, Kuro going kind of crazy, picks him up as well. And as we'll see in the next high ground fight here, it's going to be a very similar story, but that's how you can tell this is obviously intentional and not just random shit. The BKB of ILTW eventually ends, and because he kited out and went on him in the backline, forcing another defensive BKB usage, or at least mediocre BKB usage that doesn't enable him to kill a core, but rather just the IO, they take out the CK and win the game off of it. So nonetheless, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace! And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!